Hey there, leader. I see you. Are the ever expanding responsibilities of entrepreneurship keeping you from developing the life first business you've always wanted? If you're expending precious time and energy, but still struggling to identify a defined direction for your business, grappling with the growing list of competitors in your area, or wondering how to hire, train, and delegate to a growing team, I have a brand new resource for you. Introduce yourself to the KLC Happy Hour Masterclass Bundle. I've put together 4 high-impact masterclasses built to help you sharpen your business acumen, level up your leadership, and master your marketing. This high-impact bundle walks you through branding, hiring, culture curation, and scaling up. And the cool thing is, it's all pre-recorded and all yours to consume and dig into on your own time. For a limited time, Fierce Factor listeners get $100 off with code FF100 off now. Go grab this bundle at klcconsultants.com/HH bundle. Okay, now on to our scheduled programming. Hi there. Welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Lindholm. And I think it's time for us women to shift the conversation in business and step into our feminine leadership to do the most iconic work the aesthetic industry has ever seen. Each week, I'll be bringing a powerful dose of strategy, sarcasm, solutions, and sass that will rev up your creativity and ignite your brilliance as you link arms with me along our shared path of personal and professional growth in 20 minutes or less. Let's go. Hello, leader. Welcome back to the Fierce Factor podcast. It's your host, Kaylee here, and you're tuning in to episode number 180. And today we're going to be talking about how to really diagnose and to understand where dysfunction is happening on your team. So many times I'll talk to women who will say something is off with such and such team member, or this little riff is going on between a couple of them, or there's competition happening among commissioned employees, or something just doesn't feel right, or the team culture is sort of going up and down. When I think about this, I think that, first of all, kudos for recognizing and being aware and being present enough to see this reality happening in front of you in your business. But secondly, I started to think about, how do we really find out what the root of the problem is? And a lot of what we do coaching together is accessing wisdom and your own brilliance, right, as a business owner, by asking ourselves questions and kind of investigating what is going on in the business and why something might be off or subpar off of what we expect. And so I wanted to share with you today a few thoughts that I have around specifically 6 ways or 6 things that could be going on in your business that are really impacting the functionality of your team, the passion of your team, even really the productivity of specific team members. And a lot of times we want to say, well, there's something going on at home and it just is what it is. And at the end of the day, we all have home life. We all always have things going on at some point in time in our life. And what's needed of us as ambassadors of our business, whether we're an owner of the business or an employee within the business, is to show up and do our best work every single day. Doesn't mean we have to be in tippy top, chirpy mood every single minute. Some days are going to be better than others and some worse than others. But essentially what we want to avoid is having one day that then turns into 1 week, into 1 month, into a year, into that person is, right? Or even a rift that creates sort of a virus in the company, or one employee that's creating toxic environment for others who are great employees and starting to diminish their experience of coming to work and thriving in a great environment every single day. And I know you as an owner work very hard to establish the highest level of excellence and standards for both your patients and your team members. So I want to kind of talk through the 6 main things that could be going on that are really the source or the root of dysfunction in your team. Number one is really just about clarity. You're not sure what you need from an employee. And I know this seems kind of vague, like, I know what I need, right? Well, do you really? Because a lot of times, especially early on, when we get busier and busier and we just need help, we tend to hire someone just to come in and alleviate some of the pains that we have in the business, or when we're wearing 100 hats, to take 20 of them off and hand the 20 over to the next team member that can come in. And what we end up doing is hiring somebody to help us without having clearly defined objectives for their role. And the reason why this is important is that we could bring in a really great employee and we don't actually know how to direct them to create an environment or to produce in a way that is driving results for the company. So we may have not really done the thought work or really taken the time to sit down and think about what are the results that I need from this role? And then how can I communicate to this employee in a way so that they know specifically how to be successful in this role? And this really starts with us taking the time to get clarity really before we hire somebody. But these things can happen even as the business grows. And like those employees that are great employees, we tend to give more and more responsibility to. And all of a sudden they're doing a million things. And there is dysfunction because we don't really know what they're doing. We don't really have clear objectives for them. So we don't know how to manage their performance. We can't really review, is their productivity increasing? We just end up starting to measure busyness or activity versus the results that they're producing. So that could be one area. Area of dysfunction number two is they aren't clear on what you need. So our employee, as an example, is confused about what they're supposed to be doing, or they could be a really rock star employee, but they don't know what success looks like to you. And so I always say that we have expectations, whether we communicate them or not. We're always holding somebody to a certain standard or certain expectation or level of something that we believe they should be delivering on. So a lot of times I'll have clients say to me, I don't know why they don't just get it. Isn't that obvious that they should do it like this? And those, again, are things that we need to get clear on ourselves and then communicate those to that employee so that they know what success looks like. So your dysfunction may not necessarily be dysfunction and more just a symptom of an employee not really clearly understanding what it is that you need from either that task or from their job altogether. Dysfunction number three is that your employees aren't clear on your value system. And so they're essentially doing things their own way. A lot of times this will happen with an employee that has a lot of experience already and comes into your company, and maybe you hire them because they're a plug and play employee, right? But we haven't taken the time to help them really understand the way we operate, how we do things around here, what our expectations are culturally, and what our core values are. And so how can an employee possibly operate in line with your values if you don't tell them what they are, right? So many times they're just not really clear about it. Again, this goes back to, first of all, clarity as a leader, and then your ability to communicate to your employees what's important to you so that they understand and they can be successful. A lot of times I'll hear like, yeah, that employee just doesn't care, or they're not doing it to the highest level, or they're not committing themselves, and they may not even know what that highest level is or what the commitment should be. And so it's really important for us to help engage them to act and behave within the value system that we've developed as a company. Source of dysfunction number 4 could simply be that you need to slow down and create an environment where your people can thrive. I see this a lot in hypergrowth companies where our business changes so rapidly at warp speed. And even as a visionary leader, something you imagined 5 years ago that would have been, your 20-year plan, all of a sudden you're there. Like all of a sudden this has like morphed into something I didn't even expect. You have to remember that then we're enrolling people into this vision and going in one direction, and then now we're changing direction again. We can't really expect every employee to just be right at pace with us. Or if we do, then we need to make sure that we have the right people who can move at the pace that we're going, or keep up with the level of complexity or the level of sophistication of the business that we're in now. Because the business that you started with 5-10 years down the road is going to be a completely different kind of business several years later. I'd like to use the analogy of like my boys growing and needing new shoes. I can't keep them in the same pair of shoes as they grow. They have to get new shoes. And it's sort of the same thing with our business. We have to put new shoes on our business because it's growing. It's really outgrowing the infrastructure, the systems, and potentially the people that we have on board. So it becomes more and more critical to understand, and going back to clarity, knowing what kind of person is going to thrive in the environment that we're creating for our employees to work in. And I've had to do work on this myself, and I've hired brilliant people, but that weren't really in it to like build the plane as we fly it necessarily. And those were things I didn't know how to identify in a candidate during the interview process, even though I knew that that's what it was going to be like working here. And now I can do a better job of recognizing that, yes, I need somebody who's very agile and likes change and likes moving direction and likes a fast-paced environment. That is somebody who's going to thrive in a hyper-growth company. So it could require simply that either it's the employee that is not able to keep up, but be careful, leader, because you also may need to take a season of, I like to call it a year of plateau, right? A restructuring season where we are having a growth plateau intentionally to slow down, build the infrastructure, invest in mentorship and training and coaching of the team members to get them up to par so that they're on board with the business as the business is evolving and growing. And actually through that process, a lot of times you will identify whether as you slow down and start to spend more time with those employees and you realize that they may not actually have what it takes to fulfill a role that's going to produce results for the new business that you have and the business that needs an employee of a certain level. And that's totally okay too. But I think part of, rather than being a misalignment and just accepting that something is dysfunctional, recognizing that either I need to slow down and create an environment where people can succeed, or I need to determine if I actually have the right people on my team. And dysfunction number 5 is that you're measuring nothing or too many things, right? So you might just have a task list of things for somebody to do, and you're not really sitting down and taking time to measure how they're doing them. What's the experience like for the people around them? How is that contributing to the health of the business? How is their productivity growing? We're not really measuring these things. We're just giving them responsibility. And then what happens is then just out there, right? And so you could get to a point where the business needs more, but we haven't taken the time to sit down and have a performance review with an employee, clearly show them these are the things that are expected of you, this much in sales or this many reviews or this grade for patient care or this retention rate, et cetera. Like what's important to you, and measure those things, right? So if we're not measuring them, or we're measuring 45,000 things so they don't even know what to focus on or what's important to us, they may get to that point where they're kind of lost and off focus. And in which case you would recognize that would show up as dysfunction within the team. Finally, would be dysfunction number 6 is that you're not holding employees accountable. So you may have all these things in place. I'm very clear on what I need. I've communicated that to my team member. My team member is growing with the company. They're clear on our value system. I have created a fantastic environment in which employees can thrive here. But then I am not holding them accountable to producing those results. So there isn't really a reason to make sure as an employee that I'm fulfilling my obligations because nobody's following up with me. Nobody's recognizing it. No one's checking on me. No one's showing me and demonstrating to me what's important, right? So what's the old saying, like always inspect what you expect? My dad, for example, if he would tell me when I was younger to clean my room, I knew he would be in there 30 minutes later. And if my room wasn't clean, there would be like a belt coming out. I learned that quickly, but my mom, on the other hand, would probably tell me to clean my room. And then she would never show up. So I would maybe judge some things around or just go hang out in my room and I would really need to clean it. So it's same thing, right? With anything in life. And I think that's when the way that we communicate with other people around us in our business, with partners or vendors or contractors, if we ask for something, we need to follow up and make sure that they understand we're clear about what our expectations are and follow up on those expectations to show them whether they've met them or not. That's just human nature. Hopefully this is helpful for you as you're thinking about why are things dysfunctional. And, I really want to caution you as a leader to instantly jumping to this employee is a problem, especially if they have a track record of being a really great employee for you. But is the issue, is it a value issue or is it a competency issue? Is it, I like to ask myself, is it them or me? Have I given them all of the tools and direction and clear communication to be successful? And the answer is yes. And they still are not, then do they need more? Is it a training issue or is it a lack of care? And if I haven't given them all the tools and the infrastructure and support and environment to thrive, then that's where it starts, right? The buck stops with the leader. So ultimately, I would always start by asking myself, when there's any kind of dysfunction in my business, is there something that I can do within my scope of control to impact the situation? What have I done and what have I not? And there's so much freedom in taking that accountability because we realize that there's a solution. If I can have control over myself and over making sure that I take the right steps in my business to remedy a problem, then I know I have someone I can turn to fix it. If it's truly the wrong employee, then what are you doing? If you don't have an employee, I always like to say build for the future, right? If you don't have an employee that is going to be able to grow with you or that's going to be the person that you need for the business that you're building, I don't see any reason to waste your time. It's just focus and energy and resources into the wrong direction. It would be better to not have somebody there than to have the wrong person. You will fast track to your goals when you eliminate the things that are holding you back from achieving them. And that can include team members. But first, look at yourself, look in the mirror and evaluate yourself as a leader and make sure that you aren't the cause of dysfunction. Okay, leader, final announcement. We have just kicked off our Confidence to Scale 6-week business growth certification program. This is the last chance to jump into this cohort. We are going to be developing the blueprint for your next stage of growth. Come and join a team of seasoned advisors and other like-minded high growth women like me and you, leader, right? Come and join us. Spend 6 weeks working on your business and getting yourself set up to tackle 2024. Eliminate the dysfunction in your team, eliminate the dysfunction in your business, get clarity around where you're going, and get the confidence to scale up in the right direction. Finally, I have a resource for you for free. If you are feeling like something is off with your team members, I have created a little guide to complement this podcast. I called it my Dysfunction Diagnosis Guide. And you can kind of walk through these 6 sort of areas so you can evaluate where your dysfunction is originating from, right? The source of the pain. And you can go access that at klcconsultants.com/diagnosis. All right, Goddess, thank you for tuning in. I hope this has been helpful and I look forward to seeing you same place, same time next week. Take care. Listen, leader, if you're vibing with me here, hang tight because I have a brand new resource for you. You are a successful, confident, powerful woman who just isn't into being average. No, you have a calling, and part of that calling is requiring you to level up. And I know that if you're working across the next $1 million milestone in your business, you need to be in the right circles. And perhaps that's why you found us. I'd love to invite you to join The Blueprint, a weekly resource for inspired, provocative thinkers who are taking this conversation to the next level. Get access to free business tools, podcast supplements, guideposts, and direct communication with me and my expert team. And of course, a masterfully curated circle of women making big moves and disrupting the status quo in aesthetics and wellness. You can link directly through the show notes or head to klcconsultants.com/blueprint. It's time to elevate. See you there, goddess.